just other things that might have made some of those environments a little bit, it's going to be tough to say this because I believe that most of our growth comes from a place of discomfort. Mm-hmm. But how could they kind of make those environments a little bit more comfortable, or friendly, maybe, or inviting? Insert a synonym, right?
Welcoming, I would say, is the buzzword at this point in time. So since we're in this space, I would say that using the power. My favorite exercise is using the power of inquiry. Right? Ask the question. Okay. If it's on your mind, ask the question. Mm-hmm. And if you are observing something, ask the question, and be open to the things that are not right there in front of you. Sometimes we're in our own world where we naturally don't notice what's happening. But if we were intentional when we enter spaces and we intentionally notice things that are out of place or perhaps that can be improved, then we can ask the right questions to get to solution. And so I think for anyone, right, regardless of the areas of intersection and difference, if you can ask questions that can get you to solution, you're in a better place. So here's an example of that, right? If there's a conversation that is being held where there's some discomfort, right? You're not really sure how to navigate it. It's already a little touchy.
Shifting in your chair a little bit, feeling a little hot.
Real good about it in general. Or somebody's called you out on something that you didn't mean, you didn't intend, that that's not what I even meant, I don't think.
Yeah.
Ask the question of how could I, in your opinion, how could I have said that differently? Or what about what I said was troublesome to you? That's the question. And if you genuinely care, listen to the answer and do better. Seriously, because we're not always going to see it the right way. We're not always going to see it the right way. We're going to make mistakes. Yeah. And I try not to tiptoe around this because some people are, really staunch believers that you've got to know better and do better. And if you make a mistake, that's on you. And I want to build bridges. And so I'm not going to close you out because you've done something that was inappropriate. I want one to see you learn from it. I want us to build from it, and I want to be able to move on from it as well. Or else we can't build community in a way that's inclusive for everybody.
Yeah.
We can't everybody's not going in the same direction. Everybody's not going at the same pace, right? But this idea of just leaving people off the train because they're not moving fast enough, essentially it then leaves another group behind. We're doing the same thing. We've got to be intentional about the way that we seek growth, especially for community and spaces of diversity. That's the work that we're doing, and making sure that we have empathy. It's not my responsibility to teach every person that doesn't look like me about my history, about my heritage, about the challenges that I've experienced. However, I am very open to having conversations when people are in exploration mode and want to grow, right? As long as it's not harming me in any way, shape, or form, I'm open to it, right? Because I have empathy for areas of growth. I am not perfect because I'm a Black woman in a part of a marginalized community. Doesn't mean that I don't make mistakes as it relates to the intersections of difference. And so we're not above anything or anyone because of the place that we hold in this particular world in any way, shape, or form. We all can grow.
Yeah. And that's this is why you're so perfect for your role. I have, I think really appreciated your guidance, as I'm moving into and becoming a part of the greater Pittsburgh community. And frankly, I think that some of the things that you've shared today, could be so helpful just in communities across the country, and even for individuals, right? I mean, that last piece that you just shared, it took me back to pre-engagement counseling that Ty and I had before we ever got engaged. And I feel like this was not the direction we were going, but even from a relationship, like those people that are listening that are in a relationship now, that counselor, this one question she gave us was, I think, worth all the money that we paid for the 10 or so sessions we went in.
Uh-huh.
And it was this question, being willing to ask people, what did you mean by that? One day we may have Ty on the podcast or something else, but it's just like that for our first 2 years of marriage, like I'm not sure we had a single argument largely based on that question, because it gives people the opportunity to pause and then restate whatever it is that they said that maybe was misconstrued or came out, or maybe folks just aren't extremely articulate. Nobody wants to be.
You still have to be willing to, right, to
throw it out.
listen to what they meant as well, right? So that it takes a certain level of understanding and empathy, right?
For sure.
Allow for that reframing to happen so that you can, again, have a productive conversation or get to solution. Sometimes we like, what's the real goal?
Yeah.
If we don't see eye to eye and we're not actively working to get to a space of growth, then our goals are different. Yeah. Clearly, we're not trying to reach the same place. And so let's talk about what that really looks like. Let's talk about how we establish goals for ourselves that are among reasonable expectations, so to speak. I think about that when I think about marriage. Expectations. Like what expectations are wild. I remember when Brandon and I were engaged.
Shout out to D.
Yeah.
And Link. We haven't shout out Link yet.
Yeah. So Lincoln's my son. But when we were engaged, Brandon he would take out the trash, right? And this goes into kind of these gender roles, but he would take out the trash. And when I lived in my own home, had my own house and everything, I was responsible for everything that was required in the home. But Brandon would take out the trash. And so after we got married, I think it may have been like the first week after we got married was trash week, and he didn't take out the trash. And I went to my school and like, what? Take out the trash. And go out. And so the next day I thought, oh, well, he'll get up early and maybe he'll get the trash out. And he didn't do it. And I said to him, why didn't you take out the trash? And he said, well, why didn't you take out the trash? And I'm like, because you do that. And he said, why do I do that? And I said, because you've been doing it. Well, we didn't have a conversation. My expectation was that he took out the trash. And there are a variety of reasons why I thought that, right? Yeah. And that's a whole different conversation. But my expectation was that he was going to do that without conversation. I didn't communicate. I didn't say anything. I didn't remind him. I just assumed that it was going to be done. And so that happened, I think, the week after we were married. And it really opened my eyes to not just the importance of communication. I think we all know the importance of communication, but understanding how our expectations, which are also not communicated and accepted by our spouses or people that we're in relationship with, can get us into trouble.
Sure.
So,
man, yeah, we could talk about that. We may have to have like a relationship pod or something like that and bring some couples on. But we got to wind down, and this has been so helpful. And hoping that the listeners, I'm sure, will start getting feedback from folks. But just to wind down on maybe a final thought or question, maybe two. I'm going to steal and ask two. But one is, as you think about, and I know that you have a number of large, a large vision for your organization, so we've talked about, some of your dreams a little bit too. What is, when you think about the vision for your organization, or even just, being a Pittsburgher, what do you believe kind of like your impact or like dream or vision that you're able to see in the greater Pittsburgh area, since you grew up there, you work there, you're raising and have a beautiful family that lives there. What does that look like? Kind of if we're casting it into the future, what are we working towards?
Oh, it's very clear for me. My aim is to make Pittsburgh a destination of choice for people of color, point blank. And when I say a destination of choice, I mean not because you were born here and you stay here because that's what you do, but because you choose to stay, because you choose to move to Pittsburgh.
All right.
We've got a lot of work to do.
Well, folks, I mean, first of all, where can people find you? Because Pittsburgh is going to become a destination of choice for people of color. I run a business that's based in Pittsburgh. There's a lot of recruiting behind the scenes. That's what you guys can't see. I'm sure I will get off and I'll have some more introductions or text messages from Sabrina to introduce us to more amazing people in the greater Pittsburgh area. She's trying to get me and my family to move there as well. But where can folks find you, get in touch, especially those who are thinking about hey, I'd love to explore Pittsburgh as being a destination that I could potentially create a life.
Sure. vibrantpittsburgh.org is where you can connect with me. I'm on all social media platforms, and except for Snapchat. But maybe I'll get on there too. But vibrantpittsburgh.org is where you can connect with me, and I would love to introduce you to Pittsburgh.
That's amazing. That's amazing. So Sabrina Saunders Mosby, thank you so much for your time today. We really appreciate it. This has been the Only Dream Big podcast, and we'll see you next week. If you like today's podcast, tune in to our social media to get updates on our next episode. Follow us on Instagram, Facebook, at Only Dream Big Inc., and hit the subscribe button below.
That's all for today, folks. See you next time.